All right, hey everyone, and welcome to the DFS episode of the Sleeping with the Numbers podcast. We're gonna build some lineups here, and if you didn't already watch, we had a DFS recap episode come out, and I went over our past three free lineups as well as the winners, and tried to find some trends that these winners are doing that maybe I need to adjust, and in order to try to be competitive, get these top 10 lineups, and hopefully get a number one lineup. So we're going to start off here. This is just going to be the classic 13 game Sunday slate. And so, of course, there's a few games I want to target here. And as always, we want to target these high over-under games. And one that I'm going to target, while it's not currently the highest over-under, I like players on both sides of this ball. And that game is going to be the Carolina Panthers against the Dallas Cowboys. So currently, this is a 51.5 point over-under game. But like I said, I like players on both sides of this. I like players on both sides of the ball. I think the Cowboys win this game kind of pretty easily. Carolina Panthers, as we discussed, have not really played anyone of note that put up any sort of challenge. But I think they're going to get that this week against the Cowboys. So starting off, I want to make my stack. And I'm going to make my stack with the winning, who I think is going to be the winning quarterback here with Dak Prescott. And one thing I noticed, I always stack. You have to stack. If you're not stacking, don't play. But one thing I noticed during the recap is a lot of people are doing these, I call them double stuff stacks. So a quarterback with two of his teammates. So I'm going to pick two of his teammates here. And the easy one would obviously be Cooper and Lamb. However, I'm not going to do that because I think the price point, mostly for Lamb, is a bit too high. That doesn't allow us to get many other players that we may want in our lineup. So I'm going to end up with Dak, and I'm actually going to put him here with Amari Cooper. Cooper had a quiet game last week, 5.6 points, and I get it 5.4 points before. But I expect this game to be pretty competitive, even though I expect them to win. Cooper's a cheaper option here, and I'm more than willing to take a shot on him at $6,000. Now, the other teammate that I want to put in here is actually the tight end. And for Dallas, you got two to choose from, right? You have Blake Jarwin and Dalton Schultz. But Dalton Schultz was always on the field during that last game. So I'm going to go ahead and take him. He's pretty cheap here at $3,400. Blake Jarwin's down here at $3,200. Checking out his last game stats, he put up 26 points. He got 6 receptions for 80 yards, 2 touchdowns. So again, in a high-scoring game, I want as many pieces as I can get, and Schultz is a cheap way to get into this game. So now that we have our stack, we, of course, then want to bring it back. And one thing to note, when you bring it back, a lot of the times, you're going to want a wide receiver. When I first did my first episode on DFS lineups, I talked about the Establish the Run article, and they agree. That's exactly where I got this info. I think they do an amazing job with their research, and so because of that, my bring it back will be a wide receiver on the opponent, and that's going to be DJ Moore. And now DJ Moore kind of reminds me of a Cooper Kupp light at the moment. Mostly by that, I mean he is the only target for Sam Darnold at this moment, much like Kupp seems to be the only target for Stafford. So DJ Moore, 8 receptions in the 2 of his last games. Only 1 touchdown that came 2 weeks ago. But his target line was 12 last week, 11 the week before, and 8 on week 1. So he's getting a heavy amount of targets, and in DraftKings full PPR point system, I would love to have him on my team for the bring it back. So we're going to bring it back with DJ Moore here. So next, I want to throw in a defense. And if you watch my last videos, I like to just kind of throw in a placeholder defense to kind of get a more realistic number for my point or salary per player. And the defense I've been kind of looking at is the Colts defense. So even though the Colts do not have a win, their defense has been pretty solid. So they put up 7, 11, and 4 in their last 3, allowing a decent amount of points, but they're causing turnovers. So last week they had 2 interceptions, a fumble recovery, but only 1 sack. And the 2 weeks before, against the Rams, who are probably the best team in the league at the moment, they got a defensive touchdown. So against Miami, against a weaker offense, I think they'll be okay. Even though they are underdogs in this game, it's a tough one because I really don't care for anyone on the Miami side of the ball. Jacoby was okay, but he's not a world beater. And I think the Colts defense is good enough to kind of hold them. And that's really all we care about with a defense. It's similar to the tight end position. We want a defense that always has a chance of scoring big, but we're absolutely fine with mediocrity here at that position. We really just care to stack our other skill positions. So now that I did that, the salary per player is now $6,150. So a little bit more of a realistic number here. So let's go and I'm going to grab a running back now. And the running back I want is Alvin Kamara. So Alvin Kamara finally kind of took off last week. 20.8 points, 24 attempts for 89 yards, 3 receptions for 29 yards, and a touchdown. Now they have a pretty easy matchup here against the Giants. If I go and I check out the over-under, it's pretty low. It is only 41 points, so I guess not a lot of scoring in this game, but if there is going to be scoring, it's going to be on the Saints side because they're 7.5 point favorites. Now, looking at the rest of the Saints lineup, who has the highest probability of scoring? That pauses for you to realize, yes, it is Alvin Kamara because he is really their best weapon on the offensive side of the ball. I think he'll get a good amount of touches. There's really no one behind him anymore since Latavius Murray left for Baltimore. So he should get a heavy workload in a game that they are big favorites. And, maybe even there's even some garbage time in there where they're just kind of running out the clock. They give him the ball, and it's Alvin Kamara. He can break free quite easily. And as you can see here, the little opponent ranking thing, Giants are 31st against the running back position, which is second worst. I'm not sure who the first worst is, but not great. So popping in Alvin Kamara into that position. And then I wanted to get another PPR machine. And that PPR machine is none other than Davante Adams. I still think that Davante Adams is undervalued here at $7,900. I still think Davante Adams is undervalued here at $7,900. He is the second most expensive behind Tyreek Hill, but this is the reception leader, the animal that is Davante Adams, and he is with Aaron Rodgers, who loves to throw him the ball. And they're playing against my team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have looked bad. So the defensive side of the ball for the Steelers is not great at the moment, especially if TJ does not come in and play again. We're not going to get any pressure at all on Rodgers, and he's going to have time to throw. And during that time, he's going to be looking for Davante Adams downfield. He's a touchdown monster. He's a reception monster. That is what we want to look for in a player for a full PPR format DFS lineup. So I'm going to put in Adams here. He might end up being quite chalky, but we've talked about that before. It's okay to have some of that chalk because even if they are scoring points, you're at least keeping pace with your opponents. So now that we put in a high price, likely high owned wide receiver with Davante Adams, our salary per player is now down to 4,150. So not that much anymore, but we only have 2 positions to fill here. And one position is the running back position. And there is a cheap option here that I'm not super confident in, but he's been consistent, and that is Mike Davis. So if we look here, he's gotten 10.2, 13.3, and 11 in the last 3 weeks. Not that many attempts, 15, 9, and 12. But like I said, it's consistent. He's getting yards, and he also gets work in the receiving game. Even though Cordero Patterson seems to be doing more with those opportunities, Mike Davis is still getting chances. And they're against Washington, and this is expected to be a close game as well. I believe Washington at the moment is minus 1.5 point favorites. Let me confirm that. Yes, so Washington is 1.5 point favorites, over under a 47.5. So he'll get his opportunities, and he is cheap. So he's averaging 11.5 fantasy points per game, only $5,100. Let's pop him in. And then finally, we only have $3,200 here. And I've been playing around with quite a few players in this range. One is Nick Westbrook-Akine. I hope I pronounce that correctly, because I think you're going to hear this name quite a bit this weekend, because Julio Jones and A.J. Brown have been rolled out. And Nick seems to be the next man up. He already did pretty well in this previous game when A.J. Brown went out and Julio was sitting on the sidelines. He got 14.3 points, 4 receptions, 53 yards, and a touchdown. So I expect that number to go up. He has an extremely easy matchup against the Jets, and there's no competition for him. So it's going to be him, Derrick Henry, Tannehill. Let's see what they can do. So I'm going to pop him in here. He's a cheap option for a wide receiver 1. And again, he might be a bit chalky, but that's okay. We diversified elsewhere. All right, so the other matchup that I, of course, want to get players in is the Rams-Cardinals game. So that point total is currently at 54. The Rams are 4-point favorites. And so, of course, I want to get my players in this game. So that means we're, again, going to be playing Matthew Stafford. Because his price, it's not, moving too much. It is going up. So $6,400 last week, $7,000 this week. He is still a cheap option at the quarterback position for how well he's performing. 9 touchdowns, 1 interception, 26 points per game for only $7,000. That is absolutely okay with me. So I'm going to pop in Stafford, and if you have Stafford, you know you're popping in Cooper Kupp, because these two together are dangerous. So here, that is our single stack, but like I talked about before, we're going for the double stuffed. So give me Kupp, and again, we are going to take Woods here, and I get it. Woods has been a bit disappointing. He hasn't really done much lately because it is the Cooper Kupp show. But the targets are still somewhat there. He got 6 last week, 9 the week before. But in a high-scoring game like this against the Cardinals, and I think the Cardinals' defense is also great. So if they're covering Kupp, Wood should be the open guy. Even Higbee could probably be the open guy if they're covering Kupp. I still expect a lot of points out of the both of them. And again, Woods is super cheap. $5,300, so his prices went down from last week where he was $5,700. So there is our double stack with Stafford, Kupp, and Woods. And like always, we bring it back. And we have to bring it back with an opposing wide receiver. Now, the easy option would be to take DeAndre Hopkins. I'm not doing that for a couple reasons. Reason 1, he is a little banged up still with the rib injury. Reason 2, he's very expensive. Let's see how expensive he is. $7,700. I know I just spent $7,900 on Devontae Adams. But that's a different lineup. So, again, I want more money to spend elsewhere for this one. So that leaves me with a couple other wide receivers such as Kirk. But actually the wide receiver for the Cardinals that I'm going to go with is A.J. Green. AJ Green, still really inexpensive. He showed up. He's showed up these past 2 weeks, 19.2 and 13.4 points, 6 targets in each of those. He's been okay. And again, if they are covering the crap out of Hopkins like they should be, again, Rams defense very, very good. That leaves an opening for, kind of the third man behind Hopkins and I guess Kirk. And if they are covering Kirk and Hopkins pretty well, like I expect them to, maybe AJ Green gets open. He's also a big body in the red zone. So maybe he gets a touchdown. That's what we're hoping for here. He's probably going to be lower owned, which is what I want here. Lower owned, lower priced. So that way, if he's scoring, we are passing a lot of people who do not have him on their lineup. So let's get into the running backs now. Talked about this game already, but I want pieces in the Dallas game. And the piece I want is Ezekiel Elliott. I really hope people listen to me when I said buy Zeke low, because that time has passed now. He got 26.6 points, 95 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 receptions for 21 yards. He is looking back to his former self, and I get that was against Philadelphia, their division rivals, but he beat the poop out of them. And even though you can see that, opponent rank is first against the run, I talked about this already. Carolina really has not played anyone. Their biggest matchup was against New Orleans, and Kamara should have worked them out of the water. But the Saints, like I've said so many times, super difficult to predict. I blame that win more on the Saints than I do giving credit to the Panthers. So I think Zeke is able to get it done. I like the Carolina defense, but Zeke's a different animal, and that's why he's in my lineup. So another running back is one that we were very happy with last week, and that's going to be Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So Clyde, again, really cheap at $5,400, definitely not as cheap as he was last week at $4,800, but he's here at $5,400 with the highest, tied for highest point total of the week they have the highest, 54.5 points. So again, he gets the opportunities, had 17 rush attempts for 100 yards, 2 receptions, and a touchdown. Why not pop him in? If it's going to be a high-scoring game against the Eagles, who Zeke just ran all over, Clyde has a good opportunity here. And at the 5,400 price range, again, more than willing to take that shot. And then, again, placeholder defense, we can play around with this later if we want to. But I have been actually taking the Lions in quite a bit of my lineups because I don't believe that they should be the underdogs. I talked about their defense being poor, but the Chicago offense plays against themselves, and they hurt themselves so often that for $2,200, it's easy for me to just kind of plug them in, and that gives me some spending money for these other positions. So only 2 positions left. I am going to go and take another wide receiver here in the flex. That the trends show you should be doing that. And the receiver I'm going to take here is a guy who's kind of catching on fire here. I have him on one of my teams, if I can find him. There he is, Michael Pittman Jr. So I'm not a fan of his quarterback, Carson Wentz, but Carson seems to at least be targeting him. He has had 12 targets in the past 2 games, 8 receptions in 2 weeks ago, 6 last week. So 23.3 2 weeks ago against the Rams, a very good defense. And then last week he got 13.3. So he is getting the opportunities here. Relatively low price tag for a wide receiver 1 at $5,400. Again, the downside will be Carson Wentz because I don't know if his ankles have really healed. They probably aren't. But if he's quickly getting the ball out and getting it to Pittman is able to do a little bit of magic and gain some yards out of that. So pop him in my lineup. And then finally, for our tight end position. Originally, when I was playing around with this lineup, I had George Kittle in it because he uses all of our salary, and the stats show you're more likely to be in, the top 10, top 100, whatever, if you're spending all of your salary. But it came out, Kittle was injured with a calf injury, and it is worth noting that he actually has a chance of missing this game. So we kind of got to keep an eye on that, and simply because of that, I really don't even want to play him, even if he is in. So I like the guy right below him in TJ Hawkinson. TJ Hawkinson is the only target for Jared Goff, and they seem to be working out pretty well. So I just got like a sea of blue here, and blue's my favorite color, so that works for me. So I like Hawkinson. I think he is an elite tight end. Only 3 points last week, but that was against Baltimore in a tougher matchup. Expect them to come back hot and heavy against their division rivals, the Bears. So this does leave me with $100 to play around with. So let's see what I can do. If I get rid of... I can go from the Lions to the Falcons. No, I don't think I want to do that. What about Pittman? Can I replace him? Pittman for Golladay, Chase Edmonds. No, probably not. I'd rather take... Ooh, I kind of do like Hollywood Brown. He would have had a lot more points if he didn't drop the damn ball. That is a close one. I might take Hollywood here. Hollywood against Denver, that's a tougher matchup. Miami is a pretty good matchup as well. Oh, man. 12 targets. What does Hollywood have? Hollywood at 7, 10, 6. Yeah, give me the targets. I'll stick with Pittman. You got to keep Woods and Kupp for the double stuff. Bringing it back with A.J. Green. Clyde. Can I get Clyde? Nah, I'll keep Clyde over Chase Edmonds. Zeke, I still like. Zeke or Madison. I think Cook is back, so I'm going to keep Zeke. We might just end up with another $100 here. Rondale Moore, Zach Pascal. I don't want 2 of those Colts. That's a close one. Rondale Moore might be... Nah, he didn't do dirt. Zach Pascal, the other guy. Nah, Pittman gets more targets. I'll keep this. This is what we're going with. Give me back A.J. Green. So, finalize this lineup in here. Stafford, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Zeke, A.J. Green, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, T.J. Hawkinson, Michael Pittman, and the Lions defense. All right, our next lineup here, I'm going to make this one right on the spot, is what I'm going to do. So, again, I'm going to be targeting that same game, the Rams and the Cardinals, and I haven't made a lineup with Kyler, and I really, really like Kyler. So, give me Kyler, and then with Kyler, I want to take DeAndre Hopkins, and I think if I'm going to double stuff them, do I want one of the running backs or one of the wide receivers? Probably a wide receiver. I am a little curious how Edmonds and Connor look. Edmonds been consistent in the lower 10s. Connor, I've had enough of him in Pittsburgh. That's okay. He gets a lot of receptions. I'll stack him with Edmonds. So the stack is going to be Curry, Edmonds, Hopkins, and then if we're bringing it back, we bring it back with Cooper Kupp because they are going to trade points like crazy. And then from here, let's see what we can work with. Let's get a more realistic number with my defense. I've been talking about the Lions against the Bears, especially if Justin Fields is starting. I will gladly take that. I also have not minded the Jets against Tennessee. They are hurting at the moment. Julio's out. A.J. Brown is out. But Derrick Henry can easily just run all over him. $2,000. That's a tough one. Let's see how they actually perform. 4.34. Not so bad on the sacks. 2.31 there. Defensive fumble recoveries with 1. Man, I don't think I want Philly. I think KC comes out and crushes them. I'll stick. You know what? No. Let's get some money to spend elsewhere. I'm going to put in the Jets. Let's just see what I can do with this. All right. Next, we have the tight end position, the flex position. Let's pop in a tight end. So we got Kyle Pitts, Logan Thomas. I like all of those. Do we want to bring it back with two Rams players with both Kupp and Higbee? That is a good question. I also like Noah Fant. KJ Hamler's out. We know Jerry Jeudy's out, so it's going to be Sutton and Fant for the passing game. Tim Patrick's in there as well, I guess. Gesicki also looked great with Jacoby. 18.6 points. He had 12 targets, 10 receptions. That's not bad at all, actually. Let's do that. Let's pop in Gesicki. We'll pop in Gesicki, and let's check out the running backs here. Let's see some of the lower. Chuba Hubbard is probably going to be super high owned at 5,900. People just see him as a exact one-for-one. Well, I can't say one-for-one replacement, but they see him as taking that Christian McCaffrey role, and Chuba is very talented, but I still think it might be he's not going to get as heavy of a workload as, of course, McCaffrey would. Clyde was there. I already said I like Moss. I like a lot as well against Houston. 17.3 points per game. I do like McKissick a lot if Gibson is out. He did show up on the injury report, so maybe we keep an eye on that. We're getting into the woods there. I don't want to touch any of those guys. So let's look at... I'm going to take Moss. I like Zach Moss. He has been going off ever since his benching week 1, which I still don't really understand why that happened, but cool. So now we have two positions left, the wide receiver and the flex, which really means two wide receivers. And we got to spend $49.50 per player. What can we do? I talked about Tim Patrick having a good opportunity now with KJ Hamler out, Jerry Jeudy out. It's going to be Sutton, him, and all likelihood Noah Fant. Tim Patrick has been super consistent. 13.9, 12.7, 14.8. Teddy seems to like to go to him. Let's look at the targets. Not as many targets as I would like, but he does do a lot with them. They have a matchup against Baltimore, so a decently tougher matchup. Looking at the over-under, 44.5. Broncos are barely favored by a point. I actually do think that the Ravens end up winning that game. Ayuk is coming back into the play rotation. Ooh, or do I swap and double stuff with Kirk? That's a good question. I think I'm going to actually end up going with Tim Patrick. He's under that average, so I will take him here, leaving me $5,000 left to play with. That gives us Corey Davis, who I don't hate against the Jets. I know he fell back down to earth after his 26.7 point performance week 1, but he still got 10 targets last game. He caught half of them against Denver. Again, Denver, very good defensively. If they're going to stay in the game, they need to pass the ball. Tennessee's defense is not very scary. Let's do it. Let's pop in Corey Davis here. So for this lineup, we're going with Kyler Murray stacked with Edmonds and Hopkins. We're bringing it back with Cooper Kupp. We're then going to plug in Zach Moss in for a second running back position. And then we're going to go with Tim Patrick for our other wide receiver, Gesicki at the tight end, Corey Davis in the flex, and the Jets in our defensive slot. Again, mostly because they were just so cheap. I don't really care about the defensive position. So that's going to do it. Check out these lineups. Let me know if you think we need to make any tweaks or anything. Adjust them to your liking. We're going to put these on our website. We also track the results of these free picks as well as all of my picks on our website at sleepingwiththenumbers.com. These will be posted on our Twitter at SWTN_podcast. You can find us at Instagram at Sleeping With The Numbers, YouTube, Sleeping With The Numbers, and TikTok, also at Sleeping With The Numbers. Best of luck this week, and we'll catch you next time.